So it's noon here, or?
It works. That would be good.
Or you want me to delay it and go the? Should I go with the comments then? Comments from the citizen then? Okay. Oh, she's here.
Stalker. Other side of the argument.
I was going to say sign.
Yeah, she's here, Mike.
She found my work before stuff and they bang.
Okay.
Virginia, New Jersey, New York Mayor.
We are in the open session and we are going to get started. And the first item on the agenda is the proclamation honoring Professional Fellow Chonlada Noon Janpum of Thailand. Whereas the city of Middleton has an interest in maintaining an engaged citizens and a resilient community. And whereas the Middleton Mayor and Common Council recognize the importance of promoting local government partnerships, establishing international relations, and being a leader in creatively identifying locally appropriate solutions to challenges facing our community. And whereas the Middleton Mayor, Common Council, and City Administration is interested in improving networks to help address community challenges and in assisting leaders from excuse me, from other countries in establishing open and democratic government solutions. And whereas the International City Managers Association offered Middleton an opportunity to host an international fellow from Thailand through U.S. State Department, and whereas the city of Middleton has been honored to take part in this professional and cultural exchange with Chonlada Noon Janpum of Thailand. You want to stand up? Our elected officials and city staff members have been inspired by her passion for sustainability and environmental protection, generosity of purpose and intellect, and our community is much better for having hosted her these past 4 weeks. Now, therefore, we, the Middleton Common Council, do hereby thank and commend Chonlada Noon Janpum. We are greatly honored to have been her host community for the International Professional Fellows Exchange Program. This proclamation was adopted at the regular meeting of Middleton Common Council on the 7th day of November 2017. Congratulations.
Is it your error? Is it your error?
Okay, the next agenda item is the comments from the.
Do we have a motion to approve that?
Oh, okay.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion for the proclamation of June passes. So, okay, so all right, now we are on to the comments from citizens present And this is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and Mike is who is going to take care of the time. Okay. We are going to start with Cheryl Cliff. Oh, okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Cheryl Clift. I am at 6706 Century Avenue on Middleton. And I am just speaking out about this stagecoach development and wanting to help with cleaning up the neighborhood. On the bridge that crosses the street there, going above the Pheasant Creek, there is graffiti currently on the side of the bridge, and I would like to participate in helping clean that up. The buildings that are standing and that have been called blight, I would hope that these could be taken down as soon as possible. We know that this is going to go through with a new development in the area, and I just want to be able to be part of cleaning this neighborhood up. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. So the next one is Ann Peckham. And that will be followed by David Arnold.
I'm Ann Peckham. I live at 6720 Century Avenue at Middleton Glen. I was one of the founding members of the Friends of Pheasant Branch, and it seems to me that this council takes that conservancy very lightly. It really is a gem, and it's something that should be preserved, or you're just going to be another city full of apartment buildings. And I urge you, please do not let an apartment be put there. You have no idea what the runoff is going to do. And if it runs into the creek, the conservancy is finished. Thank you. I urge you to vote no on this.
Thank you, Ann. Next one is David Arnold.
I'm Dave Arnold. I live at 3111 Pheasant Branch Road. And I want to remind you, there's really no right way to do a wrong thing. Putting that density of people in that location is a wrong thing. It was in the beginning, and it was anticipated that way by the zoning that has been in effect until this point. Many smart people have worked hard to find ways to make it a right thing, barely, maybe, consider surface water, traffic, proximity to the conservancy, and other things as well, I believe. But there's no right way to do something that was wrong in the beginning. So I urge you to think about it and think about the dangers of having that many people living with a school across that road with all the people, the little people that will need to go across there to school and back every day. I hope they're well supervised. We just have to hope about that. And the traffic that'll be added by people who probably against their better judgment will try to turn left. And I'd remind you, you may be if you read about accidents there and you have voted in favor of this, I will warn you, you may be feeling a little bit of responsibility. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, David. The next one is John Heitman.
I live at 6720 Century, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. And in the interest of keeping to the 3-minute limit, I'm speaking from my prepared text. I appreciate all the time and effort you have already put into evaluating this Stagecoach Trail apartment, but I am adamantly opposed to the Stagecoach project as approved by the Planning Commission. I urge you to require this project to be made PDD infill or at least a PDD with modification. The Pheasant Branch Conservancy and the proposed historic district are unique to Middleton and even to the Madison area. The Stagecoach Trail project is too large for the site, too close to the street, too close to the Conservancy entrance, the intersection of Branch and Century, and it blights the edge of the Conservancy. This project will bring traffic woes not only to the intersection of Branch and Allen, but also to the intersection of Donna Drive, Frank Lloyd Drive, and Century. If the most recent version of Stagecoach Trail Apartments gets final approval tonight, I can only hope that as the problems with the project become clear in the next 5 years, the city learns from this grievous error and avoids the same problems with future zoning and building approvals, especially those edging the Conservancy. Thank you.
And the next one is Alan Muirhead. Okay.
Alan Muirhead, 3029 Old Creek Road. We've been here before, so tonight I would just like to quickly summarize some of the key points. As we've heard already, this building is too big for the site. We urge you to vote no on tonight's request. Rather than PDD zoning, we recommend PDD infill, which the zoning ordinance states is more appropriate for a parcel of this size. PDD infill would limit the size of the building and associated parking, and it clearly shows that the proposed building is too big for this site. Many significant concerns have been raised about the proposed development, especially concerning storm water management. We're glad that the city has reached out to Ken Potter and that he has assured us that he and the Water Resources Council will monitor this plan carefully as it moves forward. But one of the chief factors limiting stormwater management options is that the building is too large for this site. One argument put forward for PDD zoning is that the city can better work with the developer to preserve trees. That is, of course, equally true under PDD infill zoning. But this whole argument is actually pointless because the building is so large that all the trees will be cut down. Again, the building is too large for the site. Defenders of Stagecoach have pointed to the benefits of development of the site in reducing blight, providing workforce housing, and minimizing urban sprawl. We support those goals, and all of those goals can be met with a project which is the right size, but this building is too big for the site. Over time, the developer has modified his proposals to improve visual impact and reduce size, and we thank him for that. But when you start with a gargantuan proposal and you cut it not quite in half, it's still huge. This building is too big for the site. Tonight you have what might be the last opportunity to address the size of this development. We urge you to vote no on the request for PDD zoning. While we prefer PDD infill, we have also suggested an alternative in which you would allow PDD but with a modification or stipulation that the project be modified going forward so that it only has a 60% impervious surface area ratio. Frankly, I don't know if that's something you can do as part of your process tonight. But consider that you are setting a precedent not only for this historically and environmentally sensitive area, but also for infill development throughout the city. Please listen to the hundreds who have signed petitions, who have come to the meetings of the council and of the commissions, and cast your vote against this building that's too big for the site.
Thank you, Alan. Next one is Howard Mazur.
I usually like to talk off the cuff, but because of time restraint, I made it all in one page. My name is Howard Mazur, a longtime resident of the community, about 38 years to be exact. My family developed the Cardinal Row Apartments. I'm compelled to give my thoughts by reviewing the past and speaking to the future. The two-story, 16-unit building is located at 2317 Parmenter Street. I invite you to visit the location, walk the sidewalk, view the curbside appeal. This building not only services a high demand for rental housing in Middleton, but enhances the neighborhood aesthetics. In fact, we have received compliments on the building's service and design by residents business owners, Middleton, Madison. It is indeed unfortunate this matter has degenerated into the dispute you now have before you. I hope that common sense and logic can help end this. 4 months ago, we went through the correct channels to get a state-approved variance. I understand the Wisconsin elevator code is unique, and we're not the first applicant for such a variance in the state. The state of Wisconsin granted the variance, and we believe we have completed with all aspects of it. We've complied to it. Nonetheless, the city attorneys have twice appealed the variance and have been twice denied by the state. The state has inspected the elevator and certified it is in compliance. Now your attorney has suggested a variety of pretexts to stop us from occupying the full building. The city of Middleton EMS does not have any Zoll Autopulse machines and is on their wish list to get these machines for both of their active ambulances as well as their backup unit. We agree for the safety of all our city residents it would be wise. If these machines are desirable, they are desirable for the entire city, including all those grandfathered two-story or more buildings that present the same concerns about public safety you have expressed in regard to our building. Most do not even have elevators, but we do not agree and see no reason or no rationale why Cardinal Rural Apartments should be buying all of these machines for use throughout the city at a cost of $20,000 each. Director Wanch has suggested to state officials that he doesn't approve of the unit we purchased because it is not the current model. If the state agrees with him, all the criticisms could be easily cured on the existing variance by our buying a new unit. However, under our current variance, the Autopulse unit has to be kept in our building, so it provides no benefit to the rest of the city. If these units are to be of service to the entire city of Middleton, 2 units are needed. In good faith, we're going to offer, and we are offering, to pay $20,000 to purchase one new machine and hope the city will match us and pay $20,000 to buy the other. In other words, we should share the cost since the benefit accrues not just to our building, but to the entire city. This would seem the solution for EMS. Director Wanch agreed 2 units would be acceptable. Of course, when one ambulance is down and the backup is in use, the Autopulse unit can easily be transferred to the backup unit. If we can agree on this, the state assures us it will allow the variance to be modified accordingly. We need full occupancy of the finished building as soon as possible. Even though we are in complete compliance with all building codes, we are paying for tenants to live elsewhere because the occupancy permit has not been issued. We can't go back to our original position given the lost rental and additional expenses we have now incurred as a result of this ongoing dispute and the refusal to issue the occupancy permit, even for our first 4 units. We recognize the city has expended money on this as well. That's why we are suggesting both sides redirect their spending in something more constructive. We have Middleton residents who have been harmed by not being able to move in, waiting for over 2 months. It's time for the city to support and approve the solution and extend the benefits of this life-saving technology to the entire city. We hope for a quick and positive response to this matter so we can all move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. So the next one is Jim O'Brien, 2533 Branch Street.
Good evening. I want to address 2 subjects, and I'll do it quickly. The first one is this vexed question of PDD versus PDDI. I think there's been somewhat of a misunderstanding that the people who have protested this particular project were unaware of the fact that the city was free to choose either way. I think that's not the case. What we are concerned about is not whether or not the city can choose to do PDDI, but if so, what are the reasons for so doing? And I must say, I'm still in the dark about that. And if someone can enlighten us tonight on that precise reason as to why it's PDD rather than PDDI, I think it would be helpful. I think we would appreciate that. The other issue that I want to talk about is one that you've also heard earlier, and that's this something that I guess I've been the most persistent advocate for, and that is a provision in the zoning code. It's section 10.85, and that section deals with criteria for approval for rezoning to PDD, and it reads as follows: criteria for approval. character and intensity of land use. The uses proposed and their intensity and arrangement on the site shall respect the physical attributes of the site with particular concern for preservation of natural features, tree growth, and open space. Now, I have my own understanding of that, but I'm not a planner, I'm not an attorney. My sense is that given the particular project that's been proposed, there is some difficulty in accommodating it to this particular provision. And this is a city ordinance. This is something you have to take very seriously. I contacted Larry Beckler by email yesterday to ask whether or not it would be appropriate to have some sort of discussion, some expert input on this question, because admittedly, this particular language doesn't spell out precisely in numerical terms, for example, what you can and cannot do in a situation like this. But it just seems to me, as obviously a non-expert in this matter, that it's rather difficult to square the particular proposal that is before you tonight with the language of this city ordinance. I've thought about this, and in various ways, I, like you, am obliged to obey city ordinances. When the snow falls, I have to shovel my walk within 24 hours, or the city will get at me. I think the city should face up to the obligations it incurs by virtue of these ordinances. And I invite you to ask, when the time arrives, the city attorney to give us his view of this situation.
Thank you, Jim. So there are other people who registered, but they were not registered. Scott Smith, he registered in opposition to Stagecoach, but he's not speaking. David, he registered also in opposition without speaking. And then there's Alan Heitman, registered in opposition. Nancy Mulliner, also registered other position without speaking. Tom Yost registered in opposition. And then Kathy Muirhead registered in opposition. Thank you.
Pradeep, I have a comment.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, the council approved unanimously a resolution about Cardinal Row apartments, and you refused to sign that, and I think the council deserves an explanation why you refused to sign an ordinance approved unanimously by the council.
It wasn't, okay.
Resolution.
I would Larry
Resolution.
explain it. I talked to Larry and he says I didn't need to sign it, it's simply attesting it, so.
Why did you not want to attest it?
Because I did not agree with the language. There were some words which I objected to, and I had sent that to Mike as well as Larry. There were 3 words, and that was my reason. And I have the right to, by the way. So
is this going to be a process that we should expect anytime we pass a resolution?
Well,
that if you object, you're not going to sign it when we vote unanimously?
I have the right. Okay, so the next item on the agenda.
I just would like to follow on
Yes.
here, because your position, I think there's an expectation that you be an ultimate advocate for the city.
Which I am.
And by your refusal to sign this resolution, you have abdicated that role. And I think what this council is really looking for is some type of direction from you that this was an aberration and that you will become the advocate that your position requires. It is, I think I'm speaking for all of the members, that we were upset that you chose to take your action. And we feel that your so acting undermined what we were trying to get across to the state. That's all I.
Okay, well, thank you. And I did check with Larry before doing this, and it was simply testing it, and it didn't really need to be signed by the mayor. So, and I'm protecting the rights of the city and representing the city. So So the next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda.
I'm sorry, I was going to follow up for a minute. I wish you would have raised your concerns about the resolution instead of just not signing it. I feel
Well,
that,
I'd be happy to do it in future, so.
Be happy to do it.
I would like to actually hear your objections and what the words were.
I can, Mike, do you have those words which I had? Well, I'd be happy to forward that email to you, so.
Forward it to all of council.
Yeah, I can forward to all the council, so.
Unfortunately, we can't require you legally to sign these petitions or proclamations. I checked with that.
In this case, it didn't need.
Excuse me, I'm still talking.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, in this particular case, I checked with legal counsel on this and other people who understand the rules, and they have said that we can't do that. My initial thought was that the motions that we make, if we're concerned about your support for the council and its activities, we could just simply put in there, and the mayor is required to sign it. Unfortunately, we can't do that. I don't know if you understand the severity of what you have done and what it means, but it's not a good clue as to your management style and to your dedication to the community when you refuse to back the council. If you're going to pull that stunt in the future, I suggest what you do is talk to us ahead of time so that we know what we're going to do and discuss this kind of an issue with you. Because as the other people have said, there's a direct assumption that you're backing what the council is going to do. So my advice to you is tread lightly in the future.
Well, thank you for your advice. I did check with Larry before doing any such thing, so. And I'd be happy to discuss if there's any such thing comes out in future.
If any what? I can't understand what
I would be happy to discuss if such a situation does arise in the future, to discuss with the city council first.
That would be a good, transparent start on your behalf.
And in this case, I did send my email both to the city administrator and as well as our and Larry, and I.
When you pull stunts like this, Gurdeep, remember there are 8 council people here who are responsible for the city, not you.
It's not a. Well, I wouldn't use the word stunt. There's just sometimes there are some things which you disagree with, and you have the right to. So. And I just simply used my right. Are there any other comments or?
More resolutions.
We'll have to see what happens.
Are we ready to move on?
You're sitting in the chair.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. I need a second.
I will second.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. So the next item on the agenda is the rental agreement with Middleton Cross Plain Area School District for use of district service center.
That was part of the
That was
consent
part of the
agenda.
consent
It was
agenda.
already approved.
Oh, okay. I apologize. Okay. So the next item is the old business. And the first one on that old business is the prospective action on Cardinal Row elevator issue. Who wants to take it?
I'll move approval of accepting the offer that the attorney presented in closed session.
Okay, I need a second.
I will second that.
Any?
That's the offer that Cardinal Row will purchase the unit for us.
They will pay
Oh,
20,000.
Yes, 20,000.
At
to purchase it.
20,000, a new unit,
They will pay us the money and
or
we
pay
will
us the
purchase
money
it.
so that we can
We're the only
purchase it.
people that can buy them.
Yes.
You can't walk into the Walgreens and get one.
Okay, any other questions or comments? So the motion is to take the action on Cardinal Row elevator issue, and it is to accept the $20,000 offer. So all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Aye.
So the motion passes 7-1. So the next item on the agenda is new appraisal for former PDQ site at the corner of Parliamentary and University.
I'll move approval as recommended by Finance.
Second.
Any discussion? So the motion is to approve the new appraisal for new former PDQ site at the corner of Parliamentary University. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes.
Just one technical thing. Mark said as recommended by Finance, but it actually was not on the Finance Committee agenda. So I think it's just as discussed.
As presented by Abby.
Okay, so you accept that?
Yes.
Okay.
We do have the document
Yeah.
for anybody who would like to copy.
Okay, Laurie, you make sure that you make that change. Okay. So the next item is the ordinances. The ordinance to rezone lands from two-family residential to planned development district, general implementation plan, stagecoach, trail apartments, JT Client Company. Need a motion. This is a second reading and need a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is simply the rezoning.
Yes. I'm not great at speaking off the cuff, so I did actually make a few notes for this one. At the last meeting, I expressed my concerns over the impact that this development could have on the impervious surface in terms of aquatic ecosystems. Obviously, that did not sway my fellow council members, so I will instead discuss ordinances. Middleton has a number of ordinances. I think a couple people talked about them tonight. Ordinances for PDDI, ordinances regarding the use of trees and the land. And when I look at these ordinances and I think, why were they created? And I say, who created them and what audience did they create them for? They created them for neighborhoods. I'm told that PDI was created for the University Avenue. That was the explanation I received. My question is, what makes University Avenue different? In fact, I would say that Century Avenue, especially with the Conservancy next to it, is even more important, even more special than our University Avenue corridor in some respects. And I find that if we have an ordinance like PDDI, if we have an ordinance like 10.85, we should use them. We should consider very carefully, and we should very carefully think about how they affect us. And we have an obligation to our neighbors and our citizens to listen to what they have to say. I feel like a lot of people come in here and a lot of people talk, and I don't know that they're always being listened to. So I would encourage my fellow council members to think very hard about what we're doing tonight and acknowledge that we should use the ordinances and follow the ordinances that we have in place.
Larry, do you want to say anything?
Just to remind the council that there has been a zoning protest filed, a valid one, against this rezoning, which means that it will require a vote of 6 out of 8 of the alders in order to pass.
Okay. Yes.
I have two concerns about this development. The first, which several alluded to, is that this is, as an infill development, this issue is going to affect all of our districts. And it seems to me that zoning is very easy when there's vacant or greenfield. But we don't seem to have the right mix or right criteria to figure out whether it's right for each individual development that's surrounded by existing neighborhoods. And it seems to me that we need to be giving more equity to the residents in those surrounding neighborhoods and essentially mirroring comments here that we do need to listen and we need to defer in some cases to those residents that are surrounding those infill developments. It's going to impact not only this one, but it's going to impact District 8, and very soon I'm sure it will impact every single one of the districts in the city. There's not a lot of new land that can be developed, which means that infill is going to be the way things are going to happen here. And we really do need to start being more deferential to the citizens of our districts that we represent. The second concern that I have is timing and the sequencing of events here for this development. And I'm concerned because I see that I'd like to believe that the city does things above reproach. And what is not clear from the FAQs on this development was that the City Public Lands Department indeed tried to acquire a trailhead on Century for the Conservancy since 2008, 2009. But what is not clear in the documents is that the Public Lands Department had the financial wherewithal to acquire that property in its entirety without supplemental income or without supplemental appropriations. And it chose not to, right? On 2 occasions, the city applied and failed to get grants. But the park development funds had sufficient funds to acquire those properties if the city saw them as priorities. And it chose not to do that. So now we have a situation where we have a grant and now we have a buyer, and the buyer is now also applying for zoning variances. And I find that problematic. I hope that you guys can make your own decisions. To me, there is an ethical burden which has not been surmounted, and that's why I'm going to vote no.
Mark, the one problem with your argument is park development funds are not used for conservancy lands. And I don't think this would have ever been approved by Parks and Recreation Forestry.
Except that this was an issue that went before PRFC on multiple occasions, and essentially the land manager at that time preferred to get grants to fund this instead of using park development funds.
Are you sure it went before PRFC and not CLC?
My recollection was PRFC.
It went before CLC, but I do not remember. I wasn't on PRFC when it went before it then.
I've been on PRFC since 2010. My recollection is that it's been before PRFC and was...
We considered this back in 2008. At CLC.
Regardless, I think the public lands could have acquired the property, but chose not to. I think that's the issue for me.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Howard.
I'm going to ask for a roll call vote, just to let you know, Lori.
Okay. So the motion is this is the second reading of the ordinance to rezone the lands from 2-family residential to planned development district for the Stagecoach Trail Apartments. So, Lori, could you please have a roll call vote, please?
Burke?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Sullivan?
No.
Petrick?
No.
Ramsey?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Teal? West?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion passes 6-2. Do I need to say anything more?
No, it met the zoning protest.
Next issue.
And that meets the zoning protest. And the
Howard, could this
next item on the agenda is the agreements. So the first item is the agreement with Vanderwall and Associates for tax incremental financing, District 3, and 5, planning assistance for 2018.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? So the motion is to approve the agreement with Vanderbilt and Associates. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion is passed unanimously. So the next one is the task order 17-22 engineering services agreement with Strand and Associates for Market Street parking lot.
Move approval is recommended by Finance.
Second.
Okay, so the motion is the engineering services agreement with Strand and Associates. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. So the next one is the renewal of legal services retainer agreement with Murphy Desmond for 2018 to 2020.
Move approval is recommended by the Finance Committee.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? So the motion is to approve the renewal of legal services with Murphy Desmond. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion is passed. So the next is the renewal of municipal court prosecution services agreement with Carl Kleminski for 2018 to 2020.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, so any questions, any discussion? So the motion is for the renewal of prosecution service with Carl Kleminski. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously.
Second on that.
Dan. Dan was.
Was it you, Dan? Okay, thanks.
Okay, so the next one is the stormwater maintenance agreement with Damming Prairie Properties for Seco Foods.
Move approval.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? So the motion is the stormwater maintenance agreement with Damming Prairie Properties. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. So the next one is amended and restated consent to collateral assignment of development agreement with Middleton Center Phase 2.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? So the motion is to approve the amended and restated consent to collateral assignment for Phase 2 Middleton Center. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. Award of bid, court, and professional services. Number one is the award of bid to Nelson Excavating for stream bank stabilization north of Century Avenue.
Move approval is recommended by Finance.
Second.
Any? Yes.
I had a quick discussion I'm going to steal from Mark. Why isn't Stormwater paying for this?
These are carryover funds.
Oh, okay. Well,
This was a project that was originally started in 2015.
Well, and just to expand upon that, this has been a series of work, and these are a number of projects started by Penny, I think going back to 2011, of a series of stream bank stabilization throughout the creek corridor. This is the final one, and I think it would be at least my department's recommendation that future efforts be funded through stormwater or actually go through that request process for stormwater.
Any other? Okay. So the motion is to award bid to Nelson Excavating. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. So the next one is the award of professional services to Adaptive Restoration for Conservancy Lands 5-year master plan for $19,950.
Move approval.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, so the motion is for the professional services to Adaptive Restoration. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. So the next one is the resolutions, and the first one is 2017-41 supporting breastfeeding at the city's public meetings. And
Move
this
approval.
is sponsored by council members Joanna Richard and Elizabeth Hattrick.
Move approval.
Second.
Could I just ask one question?
Sure.
Is there a prohibition against this now?
So let me give you some background. So I don't think Middleton needs this because this is what we allow. But there have been communities, literally city councils, that have prohibited breastfeeding women to take part in city meetings. Elected officials from taking part. So I think I felt compelled to go on record as a community in 2017 that puts our stamp and says, yes, this is something that we value, we will protect, and it's in a resolution form, and I would just like the affirmation of our city council to do that.
Thank you.
Any
Shame
other-
on those people that won't allow it.
Absolutely.
The only thing I would ask is that there is one typo. I'd like to see that fixed before we resolve.
Yeah, Lori did correct it.
It's already solved. Great.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's what I thought.
Okay, so the motion is to pass the resolution supporting the breastfeeding at the city.
Gurdeep, just, I think it might be helpful to get your recommendation, whether you approve as well, so that there's no confusion about you supporting this resolution?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I support this simply, absolutely. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we are adjourned. Thank you, guys. Thank you,